We got another great fortune to us this morning, and that is Jocelyn Mason is a newly ordained and licensed unity minister. She interned here for 10 weeks during the summer months, and she's going to give us our lesson this morning. She graduated 10 days ago, and she had this opening in her speaking schedule, and she has a lot to say. She's regarded by many as one of the most inspirational speakers to come out of Unity Village. And so I present to you Reverend Jocelyn Mason.
Am I on? Well, good morning. My name is Jocelyn Mason, and I am so happy to be here with you all today. And as Duke said, I did my internship here, and I platformed for Duke and Heidi, and now I get to be the person who does the talk. So I'm excited about that. This is the first talk that I'm going to be giving since I became an ordained minister. So this is very special to me. I love this community, and I'm glad I'm doing it here. And so the title of my talk is Remember Who You Are. Some years ago, there was a writer by the name of Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and she wrote an inspirational letter to a young activist who had become discouraged. And the title of the letter was, Do Not Lose Heart. And the very first line in the letter was, Remember who you are, that you were made for these times. And when we look at the current state of the economy, the environment, the problems facing the world today, bankruptcies, layoffs, foreclosures, we may become disillusioned or discouraged. We may wonder, what is going on? Is our government strong enough to get us through the seeming economic challenge? Well, what we need to do is remember who we are, because when we do that, then we go and we tap into the power of God that is within us, and it can see us through any circumstance or situation. I believe, as Clarissa Pinkola Estes, that we, each and every one of us, were made for these times. It is no accident that we are here, that we're living in these times and in these places. I think that we also are spiritual beings, that we're having a human experience, and that we can overcome any problem, no matter what the magnitude, because of the Spirit of God within us. I'd like to share briefly a story, and it was written by Reverend Duke Tufke. And the title of the story is Don't Forget to Keep in Touch. I'm going to briefly paraphrase the story. You may have heard parts of it. But they're these eager spirit souls, and they reside in this place of truth and wisdom. And they hear about a journey that they can take to come down to earth. And so they're eager. They go to God and they say, oh, we want to go. We want to go. We want to have these magical, mystical experiences. But God says, are you sure you want to go there? Life on earth can be somewhat devastating at times. You can be challenged by prejudice, criticism. People may be unloving. Sometimes it's a dark place to be. But they don't care. They're eager. They're spirited. They want to go to earth because they've heard about the magical, mystical experiences that can be heard there, that can be had there. And so God consents and says, okay, you can go to earth. Now this story is a metaphor, and some people may believe that it has a lot of truth in it. But I see it as a way for us to examine who we are and why we are here. The story helps us to know that we have a purpose, that we come down to earth to be God's light bearers, that we bring harmony to the earth. We want to bring peace and ground it here on earth now while we're alive. The story sparks within me a remembrance, a divine remembrance that all that I see is not all there is, that there is a greater power at work in this universe. And of course, we know that power to be the divine good. Now, I want to leave you with three things today. 3 ways for you to remember who you are, because it's so important that we do that. And the first one is that we can tap into learn more about principles of new thought and spiritual reality. We also can use the tools of prayer and meditation, and we can remember that we are here on divine assignment in divine appointments with the relationships we have with other people. And so first we know that unity principle, the second unity principle, states that human beings have a spark of divinity within them, that we are inherently good. No matter how we may be appearing some days, we are inherently good. We have that Christ nature. It is our spiritual consciousness that keeps us going forward. It allows us to know that God is within us, and therefore we can see God in everything all around us. And from this enlightened view, we have access to wisdom, to guidance, to understanding that no matter what we're going through, that God will be there to help us. The second tool is prayer and meditation. It's a very important tool. It's a very important thing that we do, and that we should do it on a regular basis. Every day, if possible, we should take some quiet time to go within, so that we might hear the voice of God, that still small voice that speaks to us. We will have problems in our life, but when we remember who we are, we know that we can go into that deep reservoir of power that is within us, that we can tap into that through prayer and meditation. Unity has a fourth principle, and that principle is that prayer is creative thinking, that it heightens the connection that we have with God mind, and therefore it brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. There's a scripture in the Bible, in the book of Luke, chapter 24 and verse 29. And it says, Jesus was about to go forward as he had ascended, but he said to the disciples, "Go ye to Jerusalem, and tarry there until you are endued with power from on high." Now, when we look at this metaphysically, we realize that Jerusalem represents a habitation of peace, that we can go within to that quiet place within us and be still. And as we are there in that place, we're able to tap into guidance and strength again. And we get the faith that we need to accomplish whatever task is before us, or no matter what the situation in which we find ourselves in that quietness, in that prayer, in that meditation, we find God. Mary Cooperfeld, some of you may know her, she wrote a book called God Will See You Through. And she says that there is a supply, an infinite, abundant supply that comes from God. And it comes to us when we're peaceful, when our minds are still, when our hearts are open, and that supply can help us fulfill every need, every call of our soul comes when we are there in that quiet, in that peace. Now, Jesus reminded the disciples that they could get that revitalizing, renewing, restoring, rebuilding energy through prayer and meditation. They could tap into that power that comes from on high. And in order to receive that power, we must become still so that we might hear the voice of God. Now, the third way is my favorite one, and that is through divine appointments. And our divine appointments are with our relatives, our parents, our friends, our co-workers, our neighbors, and any other person you might encounter at any time is a divine appointment. When we remember who we are, we remember that each of us is on a spiritual journey. Now, this can get tricky, because if you can't remember who you are as a spiritual being, you also don't always remember who other people are as well. And so those circumstances and situations that are irritating, troubling, and annoying can become difficult. But also those people that are irritating, troubling, and annoying can be difficult. But we must remember that they are really here to assist us in our process.